There is a new hurricane on the way. Details to come. Texas power grid almost collapses on Wednesday, but not talking about that. Hush, hush. Everything is fine. Keep on continuing on. Major labor strike potentially happening in just under a week, and FEMA has apparently run out of money, and a whole bunch of reports coming from you guys, from store shelves and from your workplaces. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant, and we do report on a lot of stuff you guys are sending in, as well as some of the news stories of the day to get you up to speed on what is going on out there that you need to know. We keep the fluff down to a minimum. All right, we do want to thank our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group. If you have retirement funds, you want to get into something safe and stable, there'll be a little bit of talk about that at the end of the video. All right, so Hurricane Lee is now in the Caribbean. It's now a Category 4 hurricane. That's about the strength of what just hit Florida and it dispersed pretty fast when it hit Florida, right? But this is looking like it's going to continue to gain steam. It's all the way off to the east there in the Caribbean. So it's not even going to brush past Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands until early next week. So it's going to look like it's going to start approaching the Virgin Islands probably on Tuesday. So we got some time here, and it's not going to hit Florida probably until till the end of next week or Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. That's me just throwing some numbers out there. That's really far out there to start trying to predict a path or to get information on when it's going to arrive, because these things can speed up or slow down. They can turn. They can do all sorts of stuff. But the thing that they're talking about is it seems to have a pretty open patch of water going, open patch of hot water leading all the way to Florida. So that's what they're concerned about. They're expecting it to gain strength to a Category 5, which is the strongest hurricane out there. Beyond that, it just gets to be a stronger Category 5. All right. More FEMA type news. The Texas power grid almost collapsed on Wednesday. Between like people getting off from work till when they stopped using their ovens and stuff like that in the evening, they declared a level 2 emergency. Now their stages are level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 3 is when they start flipping the switches and turning people off. Okay. So level 2 emergency meant that they actually have certain companies and certain industrial parks and stuff like that have contracts that they'll shut down if it's needed. And so some demand was reduced. Then all the power plants basically are supposed to turn on all their generators full capacity and go full throttle in a level 2 emergency. And that's what happened. They were able to pull through it. And then without having to switch off residential people. And then last night they had another advisory, not a level 2 emergency. The level 2 emergency on Wednesday kind of caught them a little bit by surprise, it looked like. But they were a little better prepared last night. They did not declare a level 2 emergency last night. They just had the first stage. So it was, I guess, a level 1 or an advisory, something like that. It's either before level 1 or a level 1. But that's really just kind of getting people ready for it. But they're just being really strained by the heat that's just camping out all over Texas. Of course, Texas has its own power grid. There's 3 power grids in the U.S. The Eastern Interconnect, the Western Interconnect, and then you have Texas being Texas with their own power grid, which in a perfect world would make a whole lot of sense. But with how Texas is being managed these days, they're stripping down all their coal-fired power plants, their oil power plants, and they're putting up all these solar panels and windmills, and it's not going so well. They didn't used to have these type of problems, but they're having these problems now. Speaking of FEMA and disasters, apparently they've run out of money. They're not the first government agency to do this, but they're the first one to do that this week. So apparently the $29.5 billion that they were given over the past year was not enough, and so they say they need $16 billion more to make it through the next month. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. Now, I know that it's going to carry over to next year too, but they're going to be getting about $30 billion when the new budget season hits October, and then they want $16 billion more starting now to kind of carry over into that. They want 50% more budget. And for those of you who haven't been in disaster zones, haven't done disaster relief, you haven't really experienced it from that end, you may not know that FEMA literally does nothing. Like they don't really do anything at all. They just get underfoot of the people actually doing stuff. The volunteer organizations and volunteers that come out and the nonprofits that come out, they're the ones who actually do the lion's share of work. FEMA comes out and just criticizes stuff and inspects stuff, and then eventually they start writing checks. And they give people who have lost their homes, they give them a piece of paper with zeros on it and numbers on it. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that's what they do. So if you're hungry and you're like, well, FEMA's going to show up. No, they're not. Red Cross is going to show up. Salvation Army is going to show up. Southern Baptist Disaster Relief is going to show up. A bunch of these other church denominations have disaster relief that will show up. Atheists won't show up, not in an organized fashion. But that's just how disasters work. FEMA, they show up and wander around, You'll have crews of hundreds of volunteers who are running kitchens and doing all sorts of stuff. And then you have like one FEMA person come wandering by and asking questions about what's going on. It's ridiculous. I've done a lot of deployments with Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, so I haven't gone out with them yet this year. But hey, Hurricane Lee might be another thing. All right, so apparently Congress can't agree on this, by the way, so they can't agree to give them more money to refill the disaster fund, but they can completely agree on giving more money to Eastern Europe, of course, and billions more going that way, but so far they're not going to refill FEMA at this point. United Auto Workers, so the big auto workers union up in Detroit, they're going to go on strike next Thursday. Next Thursday, September 14th, is the deadline. If they don't have a contract with that, they're saying they're going to walk out or they're going to do something. They haven't explicitly said they're going to walk out. They work at all the major plants there in Detroit. We're talking about GM. We're talking about Ford, Stellantis, which makes a whole bunch of different kinds of cars. They used to make Dodges, which I love Dodges, but they don't make Dodges anymore. So, oh well. Anyway, 150,000 workers. Okay, so now if they shut down, that's going to impact the economy, right? It's not going to directly impact like food getting to your stores. It's not going to mess up deliveries like UPS would have, but it is definitely not good for the economy and will cost a lot of money. A lot of people will make a lot less money working, they won't be working, and then also the companies that they work for are going to take a big hit there too. So far, they don't have a serious negotiation going on. The president of the UAW basically just came out and just blasted the president of the U.S. Or the guy over in the White House. Biden came out during his vacation on Labor Day and said he's not concerned about this. He said that on Labor Day, which is truly ironic, right? I mean, you got to give the guy props. To say you're not concerned about a 150,000 person union about to go into strike on Labor Day is, all right, bless his heart, bless his heart. Anyway, moving on. So this is from a viewer from New York City. Here in New York City last night, there were numerous electrical outages, over 6,000 people affected. What's interesting is these outages are happening more frequently and affecting more people, meaning the stress on the infrastructure is wearing down the power grid. This is from a viewer. Please do keep your reports coming, by the way. If you have something that you need to keep off the radar for, like job or something like that, from the inside sources, you can email me directly at poplarpreparedness@gmail.com, and I will protect your identity. If you just have a store shelves update or something like that, just pop them down in the comments of any video on this channel and use the words word update somewhere in there and give us a geographical location. So this is from a viewer in Illinois. I am a consulting field engineer, which I've been for about 30 years now. So in construction, a field engineer. I've been working for the past 2+ years at a meat production building in Illinois. So they're building a meat factory, basically. This project was only supposed to be a year long. However, there have been numerous delays and work stoppages for no apparent reason. I've noticed on the days in which the work stoppages occur that a black car arrives in the morning and coincidentally the job is shut down for the day. It is not the city shutting them down, nor is it a permit issue. Something else kind of weird is going on here, which some of the guys on the site tend to agree with me, and we talk amongst ourselves whether they really even want to build this place or not. It's they slaughter animals and they, package meat, a meat packing plant. I've never in my 30 years seen anything like this. The original on-site superintendent was fired about 3 months ago, a nice older man, and I think he knew something was going on, and now he's gone. I asked the new supervisor about the car and what goes on, and he never answered my question and just walked away. Needless to say, I don't talk to him too much anymore. Like I said, I've never seen anything like this that's so suspicious, and no one has a straight answer why they keep stopping the construction. Again, thank you for what you do. Hopefully this information is helpful. If you're hearing stuff out like that or you're seeing that kind of stuff, do let us know, especially when it comes to the meat packing plants and supply chain. That's all big stuff out there. This is from Cheryl at the Meijer in Holland, Michigan. Salad dressing is wiped out, 4 empty shelves. And they sent me a picture on the email that I looked at, and yeah, it was wiped out, like just bare empty shelves. Jesse says, I do most of the shopping at my shopping at Natural Grocers, a kind of a Whole Foods type store here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I have not been able to find fresh herbs for a month now. I've gone to multiple other stores and they are never in stock. Potatoes, onions, garlic, tomatoes, and sweet potatoes almost always look rotten. Their food delivery normally gets in on Tuesday, but by Wednesday, when the stock is supposed to be in stock, it's empty. I've spoken to the manager and they say sometimes the truck never comes on time and sometimes it's days late. They have a small discounted area in the store of fresh food, and the only things that I've seen there mostly lately is vegan, plant-based stuff that nobody wants. Shelves were pretty spotty around the store, especially with water, like bottles of water, for some odd reason. This is Homestead Nurse, and this is at the Aldi in Phoenix City, Alabama. I stopped by there, and up until recently, it's been fairly well stocked, with some holes here and there, but you could usually find what you need. This trip was a mixed bag of good and bad. The Berman's mayo was very low and hidden under an empty box. So it's a mayo, but hidden. There was only about half of a case. Lots of empty spaces all over, especially the canned fruit and the juice section. About half a pallet of flour and a quarter of a pallet of sugar. Pasta is running very low, but the fancy Italian stuff is still on sale. I don't think pasta or cat food is being restocked. Every time I go there, the cat food seems like it's disappearing. Canned vegetables appear to be low, but available. And I did look at the fresh produce, and nearly all of it comes from South America. Lots of small potatoes and a few bags of large potatoes. I did see one whole aisle that was almost completely empty. Could be that they're getting ready for seasonal items, but the store is definitely not as stocked as it once was. Lots of gaps and outright empty shelves. I worry for my kids and grandkids. And that's really what it's about. I mean, a lot of us are fairly well prepared. Hopefully you are by now, if you've been watching this channel. But it's the people that just haven't even thought about it. The people that have like a bottle of ketchup in their refrigerator. I don't know how you live like that, but people do that. They just eat out all the time and they just, bring back from the store whatever they're going to eat for that evening, but they don't actually have anything else in the house. Those are the people that are going to be impacted the most as these things go down. This is a viewer in Middletown, Delaware, at Walmart. Almost no eggs except for 60 count boxes that look very old and beat up. So egg issues there. We're not seeing egg issues generally out there, so I don't know if that's just a one-off or a local supply issue. No sliced cheese at all. No shredded. Only shredded. Almost out of tuna cans. Had a few 4-packs stashed in the back of the bottom shelf. There were a few more expensive ones, but overall almost out of tuna. Almost no hash browns in the, I guess they mean corned beef hash in the cans. Almost no corned beef hash. Very odd. No salt except for $4 for 1 ounce of fancy salt. So not the regular salt. They did have 2 boxes of the canning salt, and I took that. That was it. On a good note, there were a few boxes of fettuccine and linguine, something that I didn't see for many months. Overall, a very weird experience, especially since I only hit a few aisles. Can't imagine what the rest of the store looked like. People were browsing around, but many had almost nothing in their shopping carts. We heard that yesterday, right? That the meat side of grocery stores are not seeing the demand for meat. And so people just can't afford the beef, and they're just cutting back by buying cheaper stuff out there. This is a viewer in Southwest Tennessee. Where are the free-ranging cattle? We have always had lots of large pastures with grazing cattle grazing in the warm summer sun. I am not seeing much of that right now. In fact, a lot of the fields that had the grazing cattle on them seem to have been used this year to raise that bumper crop of hay bales. They're talking about how everyone seems to be growing hay, and in Tennessee they've gotten enough rain that they've actually had a good crop of hay, whereas some other areas are really hurting, like up in New York. It looks like they might have sold off a lot of those cattle earlier in the year and are now using the land that used to house the cattle to raise hay to sell. This is a viewer in Michigan, Costco, Shelby Township, Michigan. I was surprised to see the low level of rice this week. Up until today, it was plentiful and well stocked, multiple varieties. They were also out of sharp cheddar and number 10 cans of tomato paste. Also low on toilet paper and paper towels. We haven't been hearing too much about toilet paper and paper towels out there recently, so if you see any issues with that, do let us know. Aldi in Michigan as well. Low count on the fresh beef in the coolers and their canned meat as well. The chicken count was down from the usual packed cooler. The dairy section seemed to be in distress, as was the juice and frozen sections. So not looking good up there in Michigan. Sharon went to Walmart today. They didn't have any great value green beans, so I went to another Walmart. They only had 10 cans. So none at that Walmart, and they went to another Walmart and they only had 10 cans. Great value green beans. That's not looking good there. When I make my curbside orders, there is always a message saying we are out of this or that. I never get a complete order anymore, and the prices were awful a year ago, but I bought the same amount of stuff last year around $268. This time it was $438. So prices have definitely gone up for sure. This is from Chris, Wyandotte, Michigan. I appreciate the pronunciation help on that one. That was that's not how I would have pronounced that. Aldi was 60% stocked. I shop there weekly, and this week was the worst I have seen. I would say that the entire store was 60% stocked. So many empty spots and so many low stock areas. Once again, that is an Aldi in Michigan as well, Wyandotte. And if you guys want to get some more information from Genesis Gold about what you can do with your IRA, 401k, a lot of you guys have already done that, and I just hear nothing but glowing things from you guys about them. They don't put pressure on you, and they just educate you about your options and you can move a portion of your retirement funds over or all of it. If you want to find out more information from that, there's a link right here. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar, The Poplar Report, out.